Hey my tatas, guess what? It's time for another documentary review. Hey, documentary review. Hey, documentary review. Hey you guys, so I know it has been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a doctor review. Hey. Ooh, I'm sorry. I know it has been a very long time since I have done a documentary review. I really missed it. However, I am going to start back doing documentary reviews for y'all, and we're going to get back on it. I'm probably going to try to do one at least once a week. Y'all hold me to that. If you're new here, your girl loves documentaries, okay? I love, that's my absolute favorite thing to watch next to Catfish. I love a good documentary, okay? So I like to review them and let y'all know how I felt about it, what was the documentary about, and blase. So if you like stuff like that, stay tuned. Okay, you guys, so today I'm going to be reviewing the documentary called Crip Camp. This documentary can be found on Netflix, and it is really good, y'all. Let me tell y'all, I teared up at least 700 times during this documentary. Like, I teared up so many times because this documentary was so amazing. So y'all, the documentary Crip Camp is about, say that 5 times fast. Crip Camp. So this documentary, Crip Camp, is about a summer camp that was based in New York, and it was catered to disabled individuals. And it started off in the 1950s, and it was a very basic camp. They did basic, regular stuff. It wasn't anything to call home about. It was just something that disabled individuals' families sent them there so they can have a sense of community and just, get out and have fun. And as the 60s and 70s started to bring about change and revolution and all these free thinkers and hippies and whatnot, the camp started to change with the times. The new director in the 60s and 70s, his name was Larry Allison, and he was very liberal, forward. He wanted to treat the disabled individuals like regular individuals, as far as they smoked, they drank, they had a good time, they dated, they played games. If they were at home, they wouldn't be able to join in the kickball game. They wouldn't be able to join in Truth or Dare or Spin the Bottle or everything like that. But here at this camp, they treated them just like your regular average teenager. They went through all of the motions of basically being themselves, being able to let loose, have fun, and also it having a sense of community. And this camp ended up being monumental. So before I get into why this summer camp was so important for the disabled community in America, I just want to talk a little bit about the people that were there and kind of how the documentary was composed. In the documentary, they had clips from back in the day of them showing around the camp, them talking to some of the camp counselors and talking to some of the disabled young people that were in the camp. And those people also were interviewed in present day, like how they live in their life now. So it was really cool to see them as young people at the camp, and then to see them now and to give their commentary on how the camp changed their life and how the whole disability revolution came about. He wasn't the most important, but he began the documentary. It started out with him talking about his life and talking about his experiences at the camp. Also, the what I told you about the video that they had from back in the day when they were younger, he was one of the main people that was speaking on the video and showing whoever the narrator was around the camp. And his name was Jimmy. So Jimmy had some sort of, I don't know if he was a little person or if he had some sort of body, I don't know. He had some sort of disability that left him wheelchair bound, and he can't use his legs, and they were much shorter. So I think maybe he was a little person, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. But he talked about how he had such a great experience at the camp. He talked about how it was like nothing he's ever been to before, like how they treated them like regular teenagers. He talked about the romances that he had at the camp, which he did not have at home. And he also discussed like how different it was to be able to be around kids and young people that were like him, because he was a very outgoing person at home, which they said that all of them pretty much agreed upon this, that if you are not outgoing and you are a disabled person, it basically leaves you up shit creek, because ain't nobody really gonna care about you. And I actually can get that, because I would say, and I feel bad about this now that I've seen the documentary, but I just, was ignorant to the fact. But as I'm looking back on my time in life, the only disabled people in high school that I interacted with was the ones that was outgoing, was the disabled people that everyone knew. Like, the one that would be, talking to everybody at the PAP rallies all around. It was a few of them in my high school like that. So I can agree with what they were saying. Like, if you're not very vocal and outgoing, then people could often just look right past you. And I know I did. If I could go back in the hands of time, I would, I'm not saying that I would have sought out more disabled people to be friends with, but I definitely would have made myself open. Like, just like if I'm walking past a person at school, at high school back in the day, I'm going to speak. I'm going to say, hey, hello, how you doing? I just didn't notice. And after watching this documentary, I definitely feel terrible about it. But back to Jimmy. So Jimmy was just talking about his experience and how he was very much outgoing at home, but none of his friends were disabled, so they still didn't really understand his plight like how the other kids understood it in Camp Jeanette. He also talked about how when he first got to the camp, he was very, very nervous about a bladder issue he was having. He was still wearing diapers, and he had just got out of the diapers, I think. And it was something very humiliating for him, because he was a 15, 16-year-old boy with this issue. But then once he got to the camp and realized, hell, everybody got some type of issue. Everybody got something going on with their body, because we all pretty much disabled here. So that also made him feel much more comfortable. And speaking of everybody that having something going on with their body, that was another thing that was very interesting to me as far as this particular disabled camp, because it wasn't one that sought out a particular disability. Like, it wasn't a summer camp for just the blind. It wasn't a summer camp for just the deaf, or just little people, or just people with cerebral palsy, or this and that. Like, these people that came to the camp, and also some of the counselors, they all had a multitude of different disabilities. Some of them were blind, some of them had polio, some of them had cerebral palsy, some of them got into accidents when they were babies, some things happened to some of them at birth. Some of them got into accidents as they were older, like a car accident, all type of stuff. And it, all of these different disabled people came together to share, one common goal as far as a sense of community. And I love that. Actually, there's this couple. They both have cerebral palsy, and the wife's name is Denise, and I think the husband's name is Joe. I can't really remember his name, but they both had cerebral palsy, and they talked about how in the regular world, there's like this hierarchy of disability. The people with polio, they get treated better because they look more like a normal person. And then the people with cerebral palsy, they get treated worse because they have issues with speaking, they have issues with their body, they're a little bit more deformed than people with polio. So they were saying how you basically get treated better depending upon how regular you are, and it wasn't like that in the camp. The husband, he actually told us a little story about how his mom was like, I understand how you want to date somebody or be in a relationship with somebody that has a disability as well, but why couldn't you pick a polio girl and not a cerebral palsy girl? And his wife Denise is so funny and so charismatic, and she's just everything. I love Denise down. She talked about her own issues that she had with that as well, and she talked about how, getting her degrees and stuff was her way out of the Bronx, and she ended up getting a master's degree, I think, in the human sexual body, something like that, something that have to do with sex, because she wanted to break the norm. Another thing that opened my eyes from Denise and her husband giving their account about what they had going on with their disability was, just because somebody looks like they are sort of deformed. I hate saying deformed. I don't know if that's disrespectful or not, but I'm very sorry. I just, for my ignorance or lack of better words, somebody who doesn't look quote unquote like a normal person and they don't sound like a normal person does not mean that their brain is not normal, and if not advanced. It really shocked me because the way Denise speaks, you would think that she is mentally delayed, but she's not delayed at all. Like I just said, she got her master's degree and she's very educated, very smart. The cerebral palsy affects her speech. And that's something that really opened my eyes, because I was so ignorant to that. I didn't realize that you can be nonverbal or damn nearly nonverbal, but you still have your whole mind still there. I didn't even know that. There was actually a clip from back in the day when they were at the camp. It was another girl. She was very much nonverbal, a little bit more than Denise. She kind of just pretty much made noises. She didn't form words, but they were sitting in a circle and they were all just kind of telling how they felt about her, just giving her positive affirmations and kind words. And one guy, he mistakenly started to speak as if she was not there, and one of the camp counselors was like, no, talk to her, don't talk about her, talk to her, because she understands what you're saying. And that was, I don't know, that impacted me a lot as far as understanding how disability goes. Like, if you see somebody wheelchair bound and they can't talk, they can't speak, that doesn't mean that they don't fully understand everything that's going on. So that's why it's imperative to still treat them like a human being, still treat them like an adult if they're an adult, still, respect them as if they know exactly what's going on, because 9 times out of 10 they do. So another part about the camp that was super interesting was the counselors. Some of the counselors, like I said, did come back and give their account of their experience at Camp Jeanette. And one that stuck in my head a lot was the black guy. His name was Lionel. He wasn't the only black person at the camp. The camp was integrated, of course. It was white and black people, and it was truly integrated. Like, back in the day, they would say black people could come here but still treat them some type of way. It wasn't like that at Camp Jeanette. Of course, because they was hippies. They was forward and liberal, so they definitely did not, do the whole racism thing. So it was very, very eye-opening for the black person, Lionel, because he actually was from Mobile, Alabama. And he said he saw a flyer that said, summer job, disability camp, we gonna bring you to New York, da da da. And he was like, okay, cool, I need some money, I'm a pretty good person, I can, help disabled people and this and that. And he said he did not realize how much going to work at this camp for the summer would impact his life and basically change his whole way of thinking. He said he went back home, his afro was sky high, he was burning incense and sage, he had on tie-dye shirts, he was for the revolution. Like, he was so different than the regular Lionel that came from Mobile, Alabama, because not only did these, these people that were able-bodied and disabled change him, they opened up his eyes to a whole nother world. So I thought that was very interesting, because remember, y'all, this was during the 60s and 70s, so the civil rights, the revolution, all of that was happening at the same time that they were at this camp. So it really impacted Lionel as a black man, because he saw that our struggle as black people was super linear to the struggle of disabled people. I know that people might argue with me on this, but for me, I feel like disabled people kind of understand the racism that black Americans go through a little bit more than other minorities. And I will say that because the way that they explained it was kind of how we feel and kind of how the world treats us as people of color. Like, they were saying that they want us to go away, they want us to die, they don't want us to be around, they would rather not deal with us in society. And I feel like that's how people that are racist treat black people. And yes, other minorities experience bigotry and racism, but it's almost like underhandedly. Like, they don't want to kill you, they just don't like you. They don't want to kill you, they just think, they better than you. But with us, it's like y'all would rather us be extinct. That is where we have a common ground as far as experiencing bigotry and people treating us any kind of way, because they go a step further with disabled people and black people. How I feel personally, that's my opinion. I know some people may feel different, but that's just how I feel about the situation. So as the kids that attended the camp started to get older and become adults, they all kind of migrated to one place. And the place that they migrated to was California, the Bay Area. Y'all, I wanted to be from somewhere like the Bay or Harlem or somewhere different like that so bad in my life, but I'm Southern. So don't that sound cool? The Bay. I'm from the Bay. I went to the Bay Area and they kind of migrated over there, and a lot of the kids from Camp Jeanette, they went and lived together. They went to college together, and they pretty much became a community and added other disabled people that lived in the Bay Area to their community. They even end up creating a center. It was called the Center for Independent Living, and that was in Berkeley, California. So this center helped disabled people with jobs. It helped them find apartments. It helped them with fixing their wheelchair. Just everything that a disabled person may need help with, they help provide that for them. Help them find attendance for them and all type of things. And of course, a lot of the kids or young adults from Camp Jeanette manned the center, and they participated in the activities that the center had. So there was one very instrumental person in this documentary, and her name was Judy. Judy has polio, and she is one of the individuals that came from Camp Jeanette, and she also went on to Berkeley to live in the Bay Area with the young adults that moved from New York to California. And she also helped man the Center for Independent Living, and she just did a lot for the disabled community. So she had already sued the Board of Education from her area, because when she was younger, they told her she could not go to school. Her mama had to teach her, and then they finally had an opening for her at in a special education program at this public school, and them children had to do school in the basement. They couldn't even come up to the top where the other kids was. And she just did not like the way that they treated the disabled students with little care. So she ended up suing them prior. And I think that this sparked a fire in her to just want more in general. And when she found a like-minded community that was sick of the BS and sick of people discriminating against them, Judy decided to do much, much more. And she was very instrumental in the disabled people in America getting their rights. Y'all know, like I said, the civil rights movement going on, the protests of the Vietnam War going on, all of this is going on in this time. And the disabled people felt like the civil rights movement was a vehicle for them to start getting their rights taken care of. Because if you're not going to discriminate against black people or people of color or any different race or religion, then you shouldn't be able to discriminate against disabled people. That's how they felt. So they decided to start to do things about it. So in 1972, they started to push for an act called the Rehabilitation Act. And that just means basically it means no discrimination for disabled people. And they got this idea, like I said, from the civil rights movement. And President Nixon ended up vetoing the bill because he felt like it was going to be too much money to try to accommodate disabled people. He felt like it's not enough disabled people to start making all those changes in the United States. He just was not with it. He didn't really care about their rights. So what Judy and them did, they staged their first protest. So they figured since Nixon wanted to act like he didn't understand how many disabled people needed help, so Judy and them started a group, like a disabled civil rights group called Disabled in Action. And they started a protest in New York. They blocked off a whole street in New York and they did not let nobody move. They came out with their wheelchairs and they gear and equipment, and they came out there and they blocked the street off, and they like, hell no, we won't go. Y'all need to sign this Rehabilitation Act. We're not going for it no more. We sick of the bullshit. We can't get on the public transit. We can't get on here. We can't go in this door. We can't get up these steps. We ain't got time for that shit. Y'all need to change this, America, because we not dealing with it. So about 50 of them blocked off the street in New York, and they said that was able to basically shut New York down for the day. So after they ended up shutting New York down for the day, President Nixon did end up finally signing the bill. But nothing really happened in the next few years. Like, they didn't start changing anything. They didn't start building new stuff. So in this bill, it said that if you are taking any government funds from the government in any public place, then you have to accommodate disabled people. So hospitals, colleges, and other public places, they were not trying to spend that type of money. So, of course, lobbyists and all of that, it got super political. They were trying to keep this from pushing forward because they didn't want to change. They didn't want to spend the money to help out the disabled people. So after a few years of nothing happening, the leader of the Department of Health and Welfare or something, his name was somebody Califino. He said that he wanted to review the bill again because he needed to see what was going on and this, that, and the third. And they was like, what are you talking about? We've been going through this. We've been protesting and talking to y'all about this for a few years now. Ain't nothing changed. We still disabled. It's still more and more people becoming disabled in the world. So we trying to understand what the problem is here. So other people started to join in with the Disabled in Action people, Vietnam veterans, people who got disabled through car wrecks and this, that, and the third, blind people, deaf people. Everybody started to join the Disabled in Action group, and they started to protest for real because they realized nothing was going to change. this Calafino man talking about he got to review the section again. The section was called 504, and I thought it was so funny because they called the protest that the people had the 504 protest. And y'all know the 504 boys, every time they say it, I thought about the rap, we the 504 boys. Huh? We the 504 boys. They was about their life. They was turned up just like the 504 boys during the protest, period. Somewhere in California, in the Department of Public Health building, they decided to basically stay in this building all night long because they said, we are going to come in here. We want to speak to somebody. We want this act signed. We want y'all to get y'all shit together so y'all can start respecting us as human beings. So the Disabled in Action people, they decided, Judy and them, remember Judy because she was over all of this basically. They decided to stay in this building until something was done. So originally they was supposed to stay overnight for this protest, but all these disabled people ended up staying in this building for 23 days protesting for their rights. And what makes this very monumental is the fact that these people are disabled. It was people that couldn't walk. It was people that literally could not move at all. It was people that had issues with their joints and their bodies. It's people that needed ventilators. It's people that, you know, had all types of personal issues that would prevent somebody from sleeping in an office building for 23 days. They didn't have hot water. The FBI ended up turning off the hot water in there. They turned off the phone so they couldn't communicate on the outside. But y'all didn't think about the deaf people that was there at the protest, because that's how they ended up communicating with everybody on the outside. Like, they said they was sitting around like, oh my God, how are we going to get help? How are we going to get, you know, resources that we need, or how are we going to get people to help us? And the deaf people was like, we can talk. The fuck? We just go sign language to the people outside. And so that's how they ended up getting the resources and stuff that they need. They would sign to the people outside for what they needed. And it seemed like all the marginalized communities came to help these disabled people fight for their rights. The Black Panthers came and fed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And everybody was wondering, like, why y'all going to help them and y'all only got limited resources? And one of the Panthers was like, we are fighting for a better society for everybody. So if you know, you are part of that society. So if you need help, and we gonna do the best we can do, we'll bring y'all some food, we'll bring y'all something to eat. And they did that. And then, girl, they had the gays and the lesbians helping them. They brought them shampoo and stuff. It was just people from all walks of life. The church came and helped them. It was people from all walks of life coming to help them with this protest. So I can't remember what day it was. So one of the days they said, you know what? They're not listening to us in Washington, D.C. We're going to have to go to Washington. So some of the disabled people, they went all the way to Washington. They flew from California to Washington. And then back then they didn't have where you could rent, like, you know, wheelchair friendly vans and stuff like that. So they rented a U-Haul. When they got to Washington, they rented a U-Haul to put their wheelchairs and stuff in. They sat back there in the dark, and they got there at night. So they said that, you know, we're going to turn it in and we're going to go to the health and welfare building in Washington in the morning. But then they was like, you know what? Fuck that. We about to go to Calafino house. They came to dude door. They was at his door with it. They opened that U-Haul and rolled up out of that thing and was like, listen, we sick of the bullshit. We gonna continue to protest. We gonna protest at your door. We gonna protest up at that building until y'all figure it out. So on April 28th, 1977, Calafino finally signed the bill. And it was a small victory for them, but it was a victory nevertheless, because they worked so hard to get their voice out and for, you know, the rest of the world to see them and understand their plight. And what the bill that he signed, like I said, it was for anybody who was using government funds to not discriminate against disabled people. And of course, they needed more. They needed all public places to not discriminate against them. They needed help everywhere that they went to be able to function as a normal human being, and people not discriminated against them at their job and this, that, and third. So, of course, after that, they continued to fight for their rights. Judy continued to fight. She ended up being a huge advocate for the disabled community. And one little part that pissed me off was she was like in the thick of things and in the middle of her fight and protest, and a news outlet was interviewing her, and the first thing he asked her was like, are you still upset and angry? Are you still mad? Basically about what was going on with the bills and all of that. And my thing is, she answered the question eloquently, and she was very calm with her response. But my thing is, his ass would have got cussed out playing with me, because they do that to black people too. They do that to anybody who is being discriminated against and mistreated. Why the fuck are you asking me, am I mad? It's not that I'm mad. Like, don't make it seem like it's a personal issue for me or a personal issue for us. You should ask, am I still continuing to fight for my rights? Am I still continuing to correct the disparities that disabled people go through in the United States? Not, am I still mad? Are you still upset? Like, it's so much deeper than that, and people kill me with that. When they don't understand what you going through, they automatically go like towards your emotions, and they was wrong as hell for that. It made me understand her even more. But yeah, so they continue to fight for their rights, and more and more things started to transpire. By 1990, they ended up having their own bill where nobody can discriminate against any disabled person, and people need to have stuff set up in place for them and basically be able to accommodate anybody that is disabled. Because of course, their other law that they were trying to get passed, it was piggybacking off of the civil rights movement, and they needed stuff that was specific to the disabled person's plight. And they got things going with that. They changed a lot. They changed a lot in the United States for disabled people. Of course, everything is not going to change. Just like one of the people said in the documentary, everything won't fully change until people change their mind. And it's hard for people to do that. There going to always be discrimination against certain people because a lot of people are just ignorant. But they got a lot accomplished. They even did a crawl where they crawled up to the Capitol building. All the disabled people, they didn't use their wheelchairs and stuff. That part choked me up so bad. It was another form of protest that they did, and it was just, they had videos of it. Ooh, I'm choked up just thinking about it. They had videos of it, and the little kids crawling up there, people who were severely disabled crawling up that building, basically, saying, we're gonna fight for our rights. And that just really touched me. That was such a good documentary. It really touched me. Like, it blew me away, and it informed me so much. I heard about the Disability Act as I've been growing up and learning about American history and stuff like that, but I've never heard it broken down like that. It's only the section about civil rights in the history book be this big, and then the section about disability be about this big in the little civil rights section. So they really don't do us a good service with explaining to us in school how much disabled people had to go through. At one point in time, I was so ignorant that I thought that shit was always there. Like, when they started building the first piece of asphalt they laid for a parking lot, I thought it had disabled signs in it. The first van that they made, I thought it had disabled capabilities. The first transient system they made, I thought it had disabled capabilities. I really didn't have any idea what these people went through on a large scale, basically, until I watched this documentary the other night. I think everybody should watch it. everybody. It made me, child, I watched that documentary and the next day I had a heart-to-heart with my daughter to make sure she knew how to treat disabled people. She knew, you know, what to do if she's seen a disabled person, how to treat them with respect and kindness. She's not a bad or nasty person anyway, but I just wanted to make sure that she knew what to do. Don't act rude out of confusion. Don't act like don't act like they don't understand what's going on. Just make sure you aware of treating everybody with dignity and respect. I had that talk with her right after I watched the documentary the next day, because I just needed to make sure in this household we treating everybody with dignity and respect. But yeah, y'all, that was such a great documentary. I give it a 10 out of 10, and y'all really should check it out. And also, if you guys like videos like this of me reviewing documentaries, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you turn on that notification bell so you know when I post. And I'll see y'all later.